welcome to this YouTube channel. Today I'm going to tell you about 4 key things I think every rich person has mastered about money, and that this is what distincts them from poor people. Regardless of what you call rich, whether you call rich $1 million or $1 billion or whatever you call it. But these are 4 key things, and this is kind of the ABC of money. It's like the whole idea behind it, or in product design it's called first principles, right? This is the stack upon which every other thing is built, and if you don't understand this, there's no way you're going to understand any other thing anybody tells you about any form of money, any form of making money. So the idea of money is not confusing, right? But I don't know why it's been shrouded, right? People don't talk about money. Even in my culture, you don't talk about money. If you're talking about money, it feels like you have some sort of greed. If you're talking about money, it feels like, oh, you are, if you're a lady, you're kind of seen as ambitious. This shouldn't be what you should concern yourself with. If you're a guy, it seems that you should calm down. No, this is not, the whole world is not really about money. It's not really confusing. So you've been surrounding yourself with people who benefit from having you being ignorant, right, about making money. And that's really a challenge, especially as a young person growing up, right? This is something you need to understand, and you need to understand it early. I think I said this in one of my videos that the world is changing so rapidly, right? You can't afford to say there are some sorts of insights you can do without. There's another way, it doesn't matter now. I don't need to learn this now. I don't need to watch this YouTube video now. I can learn it much later. Honestly, this is I feel like this is the first video you should watch on this channel, but if it isn't, that's fine. So here's the truth. There are 4 key things about money. 1, everyone needs to learn how to make money, right? 2, you need to learn how to store money. It's not spending money. Myron Golden talks about this, that the difference between a rich person and a poor person is that when a poor person makes money, the first thing the person thinks about is how to spend it. Their bills are already eating up all their money. When a rich person makes money, the first thing they think about is how to store that money or turn it into an income generating asset. Money is made through value exchange, and it's not value exchange. It's not in terms of time or in terms of hours or effort, or how you are pouring yourself into the work, how dedicated you are, how many. I think the analogy we use in our area is if making money was really about hard work, what do you call it? All these barrow pushers, people who people who do hard labor, right, or menial jobs will earn more money. But that's not really the best efficient way, right, of making money. Not especially with your body, it's mostly with your mind. But that's aside. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how to make money. How do you make money? Making money is by solving people's problems, right? Whether we like it or not, whether it's packaged as job, freelancer, is about solving people's problems. And I know if you've been on YouTube, there are lots of videos about it, right? Solve people's problems, create value. That's the only way you make money. And the question is, right, are there efficient ways to create these values? That's another thing. Okay, look at it. Example. So let's come back. Look at it. When you go to school, what do you go to school for? You go to school to acquire a certain set of skills, right? With the goal that when you enter the job market, you exchange that certain set of skills you've acquired, which is valuable to your employer, for money. So it's a value exchange. And I was saying this earlier to someone, that what's the concept of money? Where did we get the concept of money? In the olden days, when there was no physical fiat, when there was no physical currency, I should have brought a currency here. When there was no physical currency, people traded things. If I wanted a camera, I traded it for my couch. If I wanted a couch, I traded something else in my house for something. But we said we got up as a species. We got up to a time where we said, I don't have to trade what I already have for something else. Is there a means of exchange I can use as tradable, that we can exchange? We all agree. I remember the concept of money is something more than one person have agreed on, right? You can't cut paper in your house and say that's money. It's something a large group of people have agreed that this is their value of exchange. Then how do you ensure you have more value of exchange? Is to create, or is to have a valuable skill, is to have a valuable product you're selling, is to have a valuable idea people want to invest in. How we make money is by creating value in the society. That value could come in form of you right? Offering a service. It could come in form of you exchanging your time. There's something someone wants to work on, but the person doesn't have enough time to spend working on that idea, and you work on it, right? That could be a job, right? So that is it. I want to show you what I call the value ladder. There are 4 value ladders, and it's critical and it's very important that we understand this. And even as people who have 9 to 5, I have 9 to 5, it's important that you move yourself up the value ladder, because when you start, especially if you're coming out of school, right? In school, you've exchanged skills, and you've exchanged time, and you've gotten skills. Right? That skill, when you get to the job market, you exchange that skill for money. That is, but you can't spend your whole life exchanging your time and your skills for money. You need to move up the value ladder. And if you don't understand the value ladder, you will stay there. That's why people towards the later end of their life, they're like, I'm not fulfilled. What else am I going to do after civil servant job? If you're in Nigeria, if you participated in government work and there's nothing else I'm going to do, and it just feels like I'm living an unfulfilled life and things like that. You have not moved up yourself, and we're going to talk about this. I think I'm jumping the gun, but you've not understood what the value ladder is. The first thing is time for money, exchanging your time for money. Because when you when you leave the school education system with your skills, that's the only thing you come to the job market with your skills. You need to work for a certain period of time. That's an example. What they say, website. You can design a website. If you're recruited as a website designer, you can literally design a website, okay, in this day and age, in less than 2 minutes. But you are gotten as a website designer and you're working in 9 to 5. You stay in your office from 9 to 5. Whether you're building that website during that time or you're not building that website during that time, that's your time. You're exchanging that whole of your time, that your 9 to 5, for money, right? And it's not. Yes, it's tied to your skill, right? But there's an aspect of your time that is bound. There's an aspect of your time that is bound to that skill. You don't only come to the job market with your skill, you come with your time, right? Because I know you have used an instance of a website designer. There are other ideas that require long periods of time to work on. Example, if you're in engineering, if you're building a house, if you're an architecture, you're required to spend a proportionate amount of time working on that project to be able to execute it, right? You can't say you finished in one day. But that's where everybody starts. And it's cynical, especially in our day and age, for people wanting to jump the gun. Because when you come out from school, what you have is head knowledge. It's not really practical orientation of how that your skill works, how long it will take you to finish that task that you know how to do. How efficient you can perform that task, how you can perform that task with other people to achieve it at a faster rate. You don't have practical skills. And I see people every day trying to jump that gun, like you want to come out and you want to be something. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, and which is really good. We need more entrepreneurs. But people try to jump that skill. And why the beauty of this season is so well is that it teaches you how to operate, how to fine-tune your skills which you have acquired from school. You don't know how to practicalize that skill, right? You can code an entire whatever. You can code an entire page. You can code the entire landing page. I'm not sure why I'm using website designing things, right? Let's say you can code an application in 24 hours. But when you are working with people, there are competing interests. There's a team meeting you need to attend. There's something. Managing all those things and delivering on that your task is what you are learning in the initial phase, right? So it's not just your skill. It's not just that you know how to do it. Knowing how to do it with people, for people, reporting under someone, managing communication, that's the whole package, right? I've derailed now. So the first value chain is exchanging time for money, which is a job. The second is, now that let's use an example of who we have used an example of, right? A website designer. When you have fine-tuned that your skill, you can decide to do it within your time and say you're a freelancer. Pay me for this skill. I'll deliver it within record time. And I can do multiple projects within that same 24 hours that I have. And I do multiple projects and I deliver on them and I get paid, right? Now you have removed time in the equation. Remember, when we came out of school, it was skill, time, and money. That's a job. Now we have removed time. It's now skill and money, which is a freelancer. The third one is if you create a system. A system could be a business, a brand, a service that you are offering, and it's not just you, but it's a system, interconnected process. Even someone that has a plumbing business, a plumbing business is a system for making money, especially as long as it's not just you working. You've recruited some people, somebody's making sales for you, somebody at the end of the day you deliver that service. You've created a system, a business, right? A business that is generating money. From that, you now go to investor. An investor is really where we all strive to be. No one will say Warren Buffett. That's where we all strive to be. Now we can work on our passion and work on things that we want, and the money that we have made, we are now using it, to make more money, right? So that's the value ladder as we all strive as human beings. And if you're watching this video, I really think you should strive to move up the ladder. Strive to exchange when you start, so it's your skill and your time. Then start exchanging your skill for just money. Then try to build a system around your skill. People that even run coaching programs are teaching people their skills, so they're building a business, they're building a brand, right? Try to convert your skill into a system, and then the money you've made from this process, you try to use it to make more money, right? So that's it. So most people get stuck at level 1. Do not get stuck at level 1. Honestly speaking, you will end up being unproductive. You will not achieve your goals, your dreams, and your vision. Or some people are just fine being in level 1, and that's also fine. Everybody has different, dreams and values and things they want to do or things they want to get out of their lives, right? So the fastest way is to try to move up the ladder quickly. Right? Not necessarily to get a raise, not necessarily to maybe there's some people that will go after this, not necessarily to get a raise. More money wouldn't really help you if you don't know how to manage it, and if you don't understand where you are. It's not necessarily to add a side hustle, you might be drained out. It's to ask yourself, what level am I currently at, and what can I do, and what level solves the same problem with more leverage? I said leverage, but what level can I go up on? What else can I add? How else can I refine this my skill? Remember, the starting base for everybody is a skill. How can I refine this my skill so that I'm not spending so much time on it? How can I systemize that my skill? How can I turn this into a system? This idea that I know, can I create a program? Can I build a brand that teaches people and it's making money while I'm also doing something else with my time? I free up my time to do something else, right? What is the skill you have? What problem can that your skill solve? If you don't have a skill, you need to get a skill, right? This next chapter 2 is how to store money. You see that, and this is the distinction, whether poor, whether rich, everybody kind of has an idea. We might not have an idea of how money works, but you have an idea of what you can do today to make extra money. But this is where distinguishes, rich and poor. Because the first thing a rich person does when they make their money is not to spend it. I said this in the intro. Is to store it. Is to do something to that money such that that money multiplies. I'm jumping the gun, right? So it's to store your money. It's to find means to store your money. If you are depending on the country you're watching this video on, you need to figure out the best way to store your money. There are different ways you can store your money, right? You can store your money in assets. You can store your money in your bank account. You can store your money in your investment account. You have to figure out the best way to store your money. That it will yield what's the best place that you can store your money to achieve the best goal or the best decision you have. Right? So in that your early phase, there's something someone talks about here on YouTube that, especially when you're starting and when you're exchanging your time, when you are exchanging your skills and your time for money, the first thing to think of is honestly not to go and start investing your money. It's to invest it in yourself. Because when you come out of school, so if you went to Nigerian school, you were at least 100 in a class. All of you have the same skills, right? People are not going to pay you more money for that same skill you have, because there's someone that's willing to collect less than, let's say a skill is worth 50,000 naira. There's no reason why somebody is going to pay you more than 50,000 naira. Or let's say the job market has agreed that skill is worth 50,000. Why would someone pay you more money, right? is to find leverage, which is to fine-tune that your skill. So the first money you make shouldn't really be going to investing, because you will not be able to move up the ladder. The first thing you should be like to invest it in yourself, right? So you're storing that money in yourself, that first set of money you've made, to refine your skill, to learn the best way of doing it, whether you to leverage AI and include in your skill, like, is there a more efficient way I can do this skill or perform this task so that it is easier, it is better, it's much more appealing to people, right? So that's the first thing. Think about where you store your money. You can store your money yourself, especially if you are still up in the exchange, if you're still in value level 1, right? Number 2, think of assets you're going to store your money in. The first thing you should put out your savings first before you talk about your spending, right? Look for assets to store your money in. Have emergency funds, right? Think of where emergencies happen, right? So that you don't misappropriate your funds. The third thing is learn how to spend money, right? Money is on your rent. There's no return on investment on your rent, on the food you're eating, on your clothing, or probably your family, or what else, responsibilities that you might have. But when you've removed those things, right, you ask yourself so these are 3 key framework I want to give you. 1, will this money I'm spending now, is it going to make back money for me? Let's say if you want to make let me use a classical example. I want to go for a business conference, right? That is a good idea. Will this business conference make back this money for me? I can say yes. It's a business conference that will teach me a new skill that I don't know. 2, will this improve my life? Yes, it will improve my life. 3, buying this, will it make me feel better? Yes, it will make me feel better, because when I learn this skill, my life will be improved and I'll be able to, make more money, right? So these are 3 key frameworks you should think of when you're investing, when you're spending your money. Because when you're spending your money, you're investing your money. Someone says, if you want to know the kind of person you are, do your budget, right? Break down how you spend your money or where your money has been going into. You will figure out where the gaps are in your life, whether you're spending so much money on clothes, on food, or something else, right? So track your spending habits, label them. Is this a useful spend? Because let me pause and put this here. Sometimes we say things and sometimes you hear these videos and you don't understand we don't seem to get just assuming this, as someone made a video somewhere online on it, that you spent 8 hours working on it, even if it's a freelance project, right? And they paid you 10,000 naira. I'm using an example on 10,000 naira. Then you spend that exact same 10,000 naira to buy a clothes. You literally spent 8 hours. If you built that project, if you did that project in 8 hours, you literally spent 8 hours of your time. The Bible talks about teach us to number our days, and it's really important. If you've exchanged your time for money, when you spend money on that thing, you didn't really buy that thing. You spent your life. It's an aspect of hours of your life that you spent purchasing that thing. So you really need to think about, especially big purchases, even small purchases. When you add them together, they end up becoming big purchases. You need to think about it, and you need to critically think about it when you're making some of the big purchases. Yes, when you want to travel, that's good. When you want to buy big investments, that's good. You need to critically think about it. You have spent an aspect of your life working on this thing, and your employer, whoever is paying you, has paid you this amount of money. Is this a good purchase? Will this purchase have return on investment, whether on your life, on the quality of your life, or on something that you value, right? You need to think about that. The next thing to think about is how to invest your money. The primary goal of making money is to make more money. I'm not sure how else to sugarcoat it, right? Myron talks about it this way: when you make money, you should put it in an income producing asset, right? So that money makes more money. We are all in this journey. I'm also figuring out how to do that, right? So that the money, example, if you earn a salary, you should try your best. Although sometimes, depending on how much you're making and your standard of living, sometimes it might not be where you start. That was why I said to invest in in assets, in investments, and in yourself. When you're starting off earlier, it might be harder to do this, and we need to recognize that aspect, right? But you should do it with this goal in mind. This is the goal you should do it in mind. That will get to a point in my life where if I make 100,000, I will put it in an income generating asset. Then any returns from that income generating asset is what I'm spending on. And that's why rich people never go broke. Do you know why? Example, I'm using an instance. If somebody makes 100,000, they put it in a treasury bill. An example, treasury bill pays 20%. So it's their 100,000 plus 20,000. They will come up with that 20,000 and buy suya of 20,000. You that is making 100,000, that have spent 80, you are spending your last 20k to buy the same suya. Do you see that the person's original money is still there? They've just spent the dividends, the returns on their main money. And that's why they never go broke. They want to buy a car. They don't buy the car with the money they've made. They store the money, make the money to make more money. It's the extra that the money made. That's what they are spending on. That's why the rich will never go broke. No matter what you say, no matter how you say it, is this understanding. And even if you're not starting there, is to have this understanding in mind and strive for it. That it will get to a point that when I make money, the first thing I think about with the money I make is not to spend it, is to store it in a way that it will generate a return. There are different ways. Store it in assets, whether it's real estate. People buy into properties. I'm not making any, you can go and find out about it. I am not a financial expert. People will buy into properties that pay them rental income, and they spend, let me give you an instance. If people buy into a property that makes them rental income, right? For over 10 years, they have this dirty December that they follow everyone to squander money on. Then after 10 years, they sell off their rental property. They make back their core money. And if it's real estate, with some appreciation, while they have, in the past 10 years, they've been squandering money. You and them are not the same thing, and you can never get there if you continue with your habit. So that's why, even if you're not there yet, if you have this understanding, you will strive towards a goal. You will have this understanding, you would strive towards, something that something at the end of the day you will make transform your life, right? So that is it. How to invest money. There are several things you should invest money in. You should invest money in knowledge. That's the first thing. Even the Bible says it, buy knowledge and don't sell it. Knowledge is something that it's easier to get these days with the AI. Everybody has AI on their phone, especially if you have WhatsApp. Ask questions. Ask questions. Ask useful questions. Ask questions. Learn things. You can learn how to do anything these days. On YouTube, you can learn literally how to do anything. You can learn literally how to do anything. So invest. That's the first thing you should invest in: knowledge. It could be courses. It could be programs. Knowledge, a book, a course. Do you know what it does? It compresses someone's experience into something that someone can spend. The concept I gave you about income generating assets, it was from someone that was 63 years old, and he didn't learn this from his experience. He didn't learn this when he was my age. Did you understand what it means? It means that is 63 years of experience. Half of his yes, I have learned this. I am armed with this thing, and there's no way when I'm 63, I'll be where he is. I'll be 10 times, right? And so when you learn people's ideas, concepts, when you learn people's knowledge, what they know about this topic, you compress their experiences. You don't make the same mistakes they make. You make better decisions. So when you've heard all this idea, heard all this knowledge, what do you now do? Take a decision. Take a decision that this is what I'm going to do. Take a decision, I'm going to find out how to refine my skills such that I can package it and move up the value ladder. And it will get to a day that I'm just sitting down, investing my money and doing other things with my life, right? And my money is working for me, right? 2, the next thing to invest your money is in assets. I think I've said this before. Assets could look like stocks, funds, mutual funds, real estate, index funds. Knowledge is the primary thing. So you have to find out about these things. Stocks are parts of companies. ETFs are someone has aggregated these companies and is tracking these companies and is selling it to you, right? Try to, and then invest only in what you know about. Oh, that's the number one rule of investing. Don't invest in a business that you can't explain. Don't invest in a business that you're not sure of how they make their money. They say they do this and they do, you're not sure, you can't explain it. Don't invest in those businesses. There are good businesses everywhere. Every day people are investing and making money. So invest in assets. It could be stock, ETF. 3, invest in businesses. And this is a key place, right? Because as someone who has, let me give you my strategy. If you've watched this video to here, this is my strategy. And I learned this from someone who talks about this. Before you can invest in your business, you need to have a fund. I don't want to call the name of the fund. It's like a fund that I will fall back on if my business fails. My business will not fail. But you need to have some sort of like a safety net, right? For individuals, this is called emergency fund. And if you also want to build a business, this is called your emergency fund. Have that fund that if everything goes haywire, I'm not broke, I'm not out in the streets, I have this, right? And let me tell you my strategy. I'm doing my 9 to 5, I'm investing in that my fund, and have an amount I want my fund to hit. Once that fund is growing, as the fund has gotten to the first level, I said, okay, let me start my business, right? And this, you run your business taking the maximum risk, knowing that all your life doesn't depend on this business, like that this business, there's nothing that's going to happen to it, but that you would succeed, and you're taking all the risks. All the risks means that you're doing everything. If they say post 10 times a day, you're posting 10 times a day. If they say recruit someone, you're recruiting someone, right? Because I've noticed that, I'm digressing now, businesses, why we're not so successful is because this is the only thing. And in the early phase, you are like, this is not even working, maybe I should just pull out my money. You sell below profits and you pull out your money and you go away and you say this is not for me, right? But if you have something that is a safety net, you dive all in and you chase it till you know that, and you keep doing keep taking all the risk and doing the right things till the day that it works, right? So that's something I really want you to think about, and this is my strategy. So and my funds, the initial primary fund, I'm saving them in assets like stocks and ETFs and things like that. Then I'm not diversifying into businesses, because this is one thing about the difference between stocks and businesses that people wouldn't tell you. Stocks are good, and for some stocks, depending on how long you hold them, you can make 100% on a stock. But a business is different. Your business, you can make 1,000% on your business, depending on how long you are willing to follow through to the end. And your business also teaches you things that stocks investing will necessarily teach you, right? It changes your perspective about life. It opens up new doors, new opportunities for you, right? So businesses change you as an individual, right? And it teaches you, even when you bring in those ideas into your workplace, it makes you a different person, right? You're just different and unique, right? So I think everybody should try to have something, is a value you're offering to the market, right? So that's the third thing. I've said 3 things you should, invest in.